Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 76 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. We got a lot to get to today, but before we get into the content, I want to give a special shout out. Shout out to Allie, man. Shout out to Allie for cooking up a crazy banger with this guy over here last week, and I listened to the whole thing. A lot of good insights there, a lot of good stories. Such a positive guy. Honestly, the best guest I could have on. Well, actually, that's like disrespecting everybody else, but he really embodies the Brighter Horizons mentality very, very well. Always smiling, always a cheerful guy. We love you, Ali. Shout out to this guy. But
Shout out indeed. I mean, I gotta say, I had a pretty good time recording that episode. It was very, very fun. Very, very happy. I think there were a lot of smiles along the way, a lot of smiles in the future as well. So,
oh yeah,
absolutely.
oh yeah. So before we get into the deep stuff, sir, how has your week been? How are we feeling?
It has been a week indeed. It has been 7 days. That's what I can tell you. Is there have been 7 days in between this day and the last, what is it, Monday? But truth be told, it's been busy. Life has been busy, guys. I feel like I find myself saying that every single week. The same thing of life has been busy. But, you know, there's been some things that have definitely gotten me down over the week. But there's been an equal amount of things keeping me up. And I think that that's really one of the important things about life is having the balance of the things that are pulling you down, the things that are bringing you up, you know? At the end of the day, always going to face a lot of adversity and things pulling you down, but having something that kind of keeps you going, that keeps that smile on your face, that reminds you why you do what you do, it's pretty beautiful. And we'll definitely get into it more. I'll get into more specifics later, but certainly I think it's been a tough week, but it's been a good one at that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I definitely feel the same way. I have been so unbelievably busy, and it's just been one deadline after the next, and I'm just keeping my head above water and just trudging my way through it. There's just so much to do. And this week was low-key a nightmare just because of, well, I can't say it was a nightmare. It was still a very good week. Like, even though I'm busy and I'm always working on something, I love it. I love my life, even though this is what I do. Like, for example, I don't have any days off. Every day that exists, I'm either at school or I'm at work. And even on the days where, you know, I only have to go to school for a few hours, when I come home, obviously I'm doing homework or I'm studying, I'm doing something. But I know that at the end of the day, there's no other place I would rather be because I'm very fortunate to be where I am right now. And I still love what I do, even though it is a lot of effort. And it's funny because that phrase, there's no place I would rather be, is easily the most powerful thing you can say to yourself. And the reason why is I watched this video, and I think his name was Dylan, if I'm not mistaken. I'll pop up a picture of him here. And his video came across my feed, and I remember watching that, and I was just like heartbroken to a degree, but also realizing how grateful I have to be for the position I'm in. And essentially, he starts the video by saying, "My name is Dylan. I'm fighting cancer for the 4th time now. Surgery has been set for this day. But man, let me tell you, there's no place I would rather be. This is exactly where I want to be, and I know that I'm going to beat cancer again." And the top comment of that video was, "Man, my problems really aren't anything for real." And when I read that, I was like, damn, he's right. And to see somebody going through something like that maintain such a positive attitude and say there's no place I would rather be, damn, I should be worried for cancer, not for him, because damn, if he's thinking that, that's crazy, right? So shout out to this guy, because I don't know how people, like, there are people out there who think like that, and that is who I strive to be. So no matter how busy I am, I'm always going to have the gratitude to be in the position that I'm in and know that there are plenty of other struggles I could be going through right now. And to say that my biggest struggle is the fact that I'm busy with work and school, that's quite a gift, really, because I get rewarded for both of those things too at the end of the day, right? So it's a good life. So if you're out there and you're dealing with the same thing where it's just very busy and you're always on go mode, you feel like there's no break, just remember that there are a lot of people out there who would beg to be in the position that you're in. And like Nithik said at the very beginning of the episode, you kind of got to balance the highs with the lows. Just have the same things pushing you forward and keeping you above water as there are things pulling you down. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be things pulling you down.
I think that, like, when it comes to like looking at other people's problems and being like, oh, this person is going through so much more than I am, and I have like almost like I have no right to be upset about my stuff. I don't think that's a good mindset to have, only because like um your problems are your problems, right? But the way that I think you should look at it is, instead of diminishing your problems, you should be like boosting your joys, if that makes sense. So like looking at other people's lives and being like, damn, like I have this really good thing in my life. I should be more grateful for it. Instead of saying I should be, grateful I have less problems, say I'm grateful that I have more joys. Because at the end of the day, everybody goes through their own struggles. And the one thing I don't like that I see is a lot of the times, like when I'm talking to people and they're talking about the things that they go through, they're like, yeah, but like everybody's going through stuff. So, why does it really matter? And I'm like, that's not true, right? Everybody needs to heal. Everybody needs to take time to deal with things. Like the most unhealthy thing you can do is to sit there and not deal with it. I think one of the most frustrating things is when I talk to a friend and we, catch up after a really long time and they're like, hey man, like, a month ago I was really going through it. And I was like, dude, why didn't you tell me or something? And they're like, oh, well, I know that you're going through stuff too. And everybody's really going through stuff. I'm like, man, how dare you? Like I would much rather have been there for you through the struggle than to have heard about it like a month later. And it's literally something that Simon Sinek says. I've seen a lot of his videos as of lately. I don't know why they just keep like popping up on my like explore page, but he talks about how like, how dare you rob me the joy of being able to be there for you when you need me. And that one really cut deep for me, because I was like, we talked about on the last episode with Ali, is like the impact that you have on the people around you is very important. And for people to sit here and think like, oh, it's a burden to like deal with my problems. No, it's not at all. But there's always an importance in finding great deals of gratitude in your life, right? Like I'm very, very grateful that, I don't suffer from something like cancer and I don't have to fight something like that. At the end of the day, I think there's always varying levels of like the difficulties and joys that we go through in life, but don't diminish your problems because you believe that they're worthless, or that, other people are going through more, so my struggles aren't important. Everybody's struggles are important. They're all gonna like contribute to your growth, but be grateful for the joys that you do have, because, there's a lot of people that wish that they could experience the same joys that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a good part two to what I was saying. I think that's a good clarification, a bit of extra information, because when you think about everybody else's problems, you have to remember that while they exist, they are not directly impacting your life 90% of the time.
Yeah.
You are not living through that person's problems. So it is good to stand in, observation of somebody else's issues and acknowledge them, but it is still important to realize that just because your issues aren't as stressful or as great in magnitude as other people's, it does not mean that it is not something to deal with or something to acknowledge. We will all face adversity at varying levels. And the same way that I say, oh, I am not in the position that Dylan is in. I'm not facing cancer for a fourth time, so I should sit here and not say that my problems aren't anything. You make a very good point to still acknowledge them and face them, because if I just push away those issues, I realize that that's something that comes back to bite you later on. And it usually hurts a lot more than if you were to just address it right away. As much as I agree with the philosophy that you don't want to let your problems get you down too much. You don't want to be down in, the depths of despair consistently because you are too focused on your problems. You obviously want to still maintain a positive attitude through those times, but you do want to address them. Because for me, one of the biggest mistakes that I ever made was being a guy who ran away from problems. And to this day, I still find myself running away from some big questions in life. And it has done nothing but bring me more stress later down the line. If I had planned out my life a little bit better when I was, first graduating high school and getting into university, I could have sat here and said, oh, I know exactly what I want to do with my degree, or I know exactly what degree I want to get, what specialty I want to have, what timeline I want. And making that super clear for myself would have made my education in university significantly easier. But I didn't do that. And that is something that I ran away from for a while, just because, if you don't address something, you feel like it's not real, right? It's something you don't have to speak on. But it becomes very real when the consequences catch up with you. And at that point, you are going to regret not taking action earlier and addressing those issues because it just hurts so much more.
Yeah, and like the analogy that I draw, going back like with the whole comparing your problems, and even here is like you have one guy who has cancer, you have another guy who has the flu. Like obviously the guy with the flu, he has it better. It's really nice. But if he don't take some Tylenol, right? At the end of the day, he's still gonna feel horrible. You still need to take your time to heal, even though it's on a different scale, different magnitude. It's a different like disease you're dealing with. You still have to take the time to heal, and if you don't, guess what? It's probably gonna get worse. Like, don't get me wrong, I think your immune system's pretty strong and stuff, but like at the end of the day, to heal, you need to heal. And trying to do it all just by saying, "Oh well, the other guy's off worse," I don't think that that's really the absolute method to true healing and avoiding that pain overall.
That's true. I think that also you need to, like, the same way that we're saying you can't focus too much on everybody else's problems and diminish your own. You also have to do the same with everybody else's success too. I think that it's kind of there's two sides to the spectrum, because what we like to do is we like to look at somebody else's success and diminish ourselves because they are so successful, or ask ourselves, man, I wish I had that. But at the end of the day, you also don't know the rest of the story. You don't know what they went through. You don't know their problems. We don't know anything. So this is the equivalent of asking for some item without knowing the cost.
Yeah.
What is the point?
You know what's funny to me is I think that the way that this became the most apparent for me is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the number one platform of people, one, self-glazing themselves, and two, like, I think it's the most egotistical platform on the planet. The only reason for that is because, like, that's kind of the point. The whole point of LinkedIn is to, like, make yourself seem like you're worth getting a job, So, being a business student on LinkedIn, I found it in myself. Like, even when I'm building my LinkedIn profile, I'm like, hey, low key, like, some of this stuff is not even that like crazy, but you make it seem crazy. It's like your resume, right? You write a whole bunch of things that you've done and you make them sound like they're a lot better than they actually are. And it goes to show that like people are so hell bent on like showcasing all their wins. And like at the end of the day, people are going to show their wins more than their losses. Like, all of us do that, right? We don't post the horrible episodes that we record. Like, or I guess we record it. I feel like it hasn't happened in a really long time.
Realistically, in the time of the podcast, we haven't posted three
videos.
episodes.
Yeah.
And that was before we actually started the channel properly, because we had the bad setup and whatnot.
So like, that's what I'm saying is even those like things that we just didn't like, we didn't post. So like at the end of the day, you're only going to see what people show you, and people show you their greatest parts. That's why I think that people underestimate the importance of vulnerability with your friends. Like, crazy kind of like dive into this, but like one of the things that I've realized is that's how you know you have authenticity and like genuinity. What is that word? I literally got summed on this last time too. I genuinely don't know what this word is.
Is it geniality? That doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right at all.
Google.
Well, in any case, as you're Googling that, like, real authentic friendships come from vulnerability for that exact reason.
The quality of having a friendly and cheerful manner. Geniality.
I don't think that's the word that I was looking for, but anyway, I think that that's where real friendships are made. Like, people always, for example, going back to Simon Sinek, don't know why I'm flashing back to this guy so much, but he said, oh no, why am I blanking? Hold.
Genuineness.
Is that really the word? Genuineness.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, anyway, he said, remember, we don't build trust by offering help, we build trust by asking for it. The reason for that is because showing up to people in a state of vulnerability showcases friendship. If you really want to take this back, about to drop some crazy lore on y'all. We were both in Scouts. And one of the things that you learn in Scouts is you always shake people's left hand, not right hand. You do a left-handed handshake. The reason for this is Baden Powell, the founder of Scouts, when he traveled to, I believe it was Africa, he went to this tribe. And one of the things that they did is whenever two people would come to a truce in times of war, they would shake with their left hand because that was the hand that they held their shield in. So they would put their shields down to shake each other's hands. So they would hold their spears or their weapons still, but they would have enough trust that the other person wouldn't attack. to shake hands and come to a truce. Trust comes from lowering your guard. Trust comes from vulnerability. Because at the end of the day, it's easy to trust somebody when you're holding a damn shield and they got no weapon to attack you with, right? But real trust is when you can sit there and be vulnerable, right? Because who would be vulnerable if they didn't trust you? That's the thing, is like, that's why people can get so close in the times of weakness, because they understand that through vulnerability, you find authenticity, because that's the only real, like, there's no reason to be authentic there's no reason to be vulnerable unless you're being authentic, which I think is really beautiful. And I wish that more people would embody today.
Yeah, you're not going to lie about what you're going through.
Exactly.
Unless you're keeping the shield up, is my point.
Like some people be virtue signaling, like, and saying like, oh yeah, I'm going through all this stuff, but I'm dealing with it. And it's like, oh, well, are you really? But I'm not saying be skeptical of people's problems. I would say if people unload their problems onto you, take them at face value and believe them. Give people the benefit of the doubt. Unless they're like a historical manipulator, I would say it's a good idea to
I know a few people like that. Tell you that. There are definitely some people out there who just be capping.
That's true.
I'll tell you that.
Kevin. A couple individuals that are in a credibility deficit, as the philosophers do say. But yeah, I think authenticity is extremely important, and it really is bred by vulnerability.
Yeah, you can't. It's easier to trust someone when they're telling you what's real, right? Obviously, that makes sense because it gives them credibility because they're telling you the truth. But telling somebody when you're in a bad spot really means that they're a friend. Because, for example, for me, I am kind of notorious for doing things alone. Like, I don't like to put my problems on other people, which is exactly what we just talked about. But the best friendships I have are the few people in my life where when I had a problem, I would go talk to them. Most of the time, I try to deal with it myself. But those genuine connections were formed in those moments of suck, where I went to somebody else and asked for help. One big example of this, I remember one time, me and Eric went to the gym, and on the way home, this is something that we used to do a lot, is we just talk about life. And I remember one of these car rides, it was like a very, very rough week. I remember oh God, no, this is even worse. I remember that I had just done probably the worst on a midterm I had ever done in my entire life. And on the car ride home, it was one of those days where I didn't listen to any music. I didn't listen to any podcasts. I just drove in silence. Silence for realizing that I could have done better. Silence for realizing that I am in a bad spot right now and I don't know what to do. And on the way home, I drive past this guy's house after taking the exit off the highway. And I remember just thinking, I feel like I'm in a very bad headspace right now and I don't want to be alone right now. So what did I do? I stopped at his house. I pulled up outside in the cul-de-sac, and I'm just at the foot of his driveway. And I call him. He's like, yo, what's up? And I'm like, I'm outside your house. He's like, what? And I'm like, I'm outside your house. Come outside. And he's like, all right, cool. So he walks out and he gets in the car. And I cut the engine, obviously, and I'm just sitting there in silence. And he gets in the car. He's like, okay, what's going on? And I'm sitting there like this. I'm like, just blank expression, not a word said for about a minute. And then finally he goes, okay, what happened? And I'm like, it's so over, dude. It's so over. Everything sucks. My life is imploding. Like, this midterm is just an underlying point to say that I'm not doing good in life. And I took it very seriously that day. And I just completely imploded. Like, everything was awful. And I just blew up right there. Told him, like, dude, everything sucks. I'm failing. I'm like actually the worst person to ever live. And that just goes to show that even me, somebody who runs a podcast about positivity, I still have moments where everything sucks and I feel very negative. That's the truth. Nobody is perfect, including myself. And I remember him sitting there and just telling me, it's one midterm. Yes, that's what everybody's going to tell you, but it's one midterm, and think about the rest of your life. Do you realize that there are so many things that you do that I look up to you for? The same way that you look up to other people, there are reasons why I find you an inspiration. And I'm sure that you do the same for me. And that's true. Eric inspires me in a lot of ways. This guy puts up with a lot of adversity in life and keeps pushing forward. And him saying that, think about the rest of your life. Think about what you have good for you. Because in those moments of suck, you're not thinking about what's good. You're only thinking about what's bad. And to have somebody else, a close friend, point out, hey, you have a great job. You have a great family. You have a great relationship. You have great friends. Sometimes that's what we need. And you're never going to find that if you don't lower the shield. And I never would have found that with Eric. And he's literally my best friend, barring you because you're my brother. He's literally my best friend for that reason, because he's one of the only people who I would call when I'm dying. When everything sucks, he's the guy I go to. And it's because of times like that where things have gone wrong, and I found out that things can get better once I talk to him. And I definitely would not have made, good decisions if I was still in that headspace. I would have been, imploding, not doing my work when I got home, not being able to bounce back. But him sitting there telling me what he did allowed me to reset rather quickly after a tragic loss like that and then get back to work. So go out there and lower your shield a bit with the people close to you, because that's how you find those good friends.
Yeah, there's a quote that I saw. It's shared joy is a double joy, shared sorrow is half a sorrow. And that to me was like, it's like you're always doing a favor by asking for help. I would say, if you genuinely think that you sharing your problems is a burden, ask yourself, when was the last time that a real friend came up to you, shared a problem, and you sat there and were like, oh my God, I can't believe this person's doing this right now. Ask yourself that. If it was recent, then fair enough. I think you should get better friends. Or maybe, do some self-reflection. But if you really think about it, I doubt for many of you that would be the case. That you would ever sit here and be like, I can't believe I had to help a friend. Because I think that there's so much great joy in it. Finding genuine, authentic friendships. I think it's always beautiful. And, there's nothing quite like it to be able to just sit there and actually get close with somebody, to be vulnerable with somebody. I know it's something that a lot of people struggle nowadays because of fear of judgment. I think that's the, crazy thing is nowadays people are so afraid of being judged by the people around them, even when you know for a fact they're not going to judge you. The reality of the situation is 90% of the people that care about you that you're going to talk to, I would say 99. I feel like there's one bad apple in 100 of people that you think you should be authentic with, and they turn out to judge you for it. I doubt that that's ever really the case. Maybe in the moment they make an expression, maybe in the moment they make a snide comment, but realistically, the people that care about you aren't going to judge you. And that's something that as a society, people need to internalize, that it's okay to be vulnerable, because you should have faith that the people around you are willing to hear you out, to listen to those struggles, because at the end of the day, it's something that we all need. And it's something that I don't think has existed for long enough, or doesn't exist with enough life, is people being able to be open and honest. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, right? To be open and honest, to be authentic, to be real, and to rob each other of that is kind of foolish, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, and that's exactly why I find it easier now, at least, to tell stories like that where I'm really embarrassing myself and just saying, dude, I'm an idiot sometimes. I make mistakes, I do horrible things, and I feel like garbage. I'm only able to tell that story on the podcast because I'm able to tell that story to a close friend, right? That is a skill that you kind of have to cultivate. You have to remember that more often than not, somebody is not going to judge you for going through something. Because when you tell them your problems, they're probably thinking, I've been through something either worse or similar before. And most people are willing to understand what you're going through. And that's really the best way to foster those kinds of relationships and have strength. Because the most important thing in life is other people. It's never going to be just about you, your success, your money, your cars. None of that matters if there's no other people in your life. Yes, naturally, as you pursue big dreams, big goals, you're not going to have the time to entertain as many people as you once did. But to take that journey and not have anybody with you is a sad, sad fate. If I had a good comparison, I would bring it up, but I don't know a very good historical comparison to bring it to. Oh, you know what? I'm going to say The Wolf of Wall Street. The reason why I say that is because yes, he obviously succeeded with his friends, but then what happened? When everything exploded and his life fell apart, family fell apart, everything was awful for him. What was the point of getting all that success if he didn't have a good family to celebrate it with, right? You have to think about the costs and more importantly, how do you make sure that you maintain that? The only way to do that is to be vulnerable with people you're close with.
It's that one quote from Brad Pitt. He was like, someone once asked me what's more important, the journey or the destination. And, or he asked somebody what's more important, the journey or the destination. They said the company. You know, it's the people that you go with. That's what really makes a journey. Now, I want to flash back to something we were talking about earlier because, like, I remember I was talking about it on episode 74, but kind of about, like, being grateful for your own life. And I wanted to tie it to nostalgia. If you remember, like, on episode 74, I believe we talked about it, was one thing I said was, like, nostalgia is always, like, this, you remembering things as perfect, right? Remembering memories or seeing memories in rose-colored glasses. But I saw a quote that kind of changed my perspective a little bit. And the quote was, nostalgia is proof that you are living a life to be proud of. What a privilege it is to be able to yearn for your own memories. And that was like, oh my God, what a privilege it is to be able to yearn for your own memories. Think about how we value so highly. Like, we're like, oh, I want to drive a fast car. I want $1 million. I want to be that guy. I want to be that person. I want to be, I don't know, I want to be in the NFL. I want to be in the NBA, NHL. I want to be at the top of the world. And yet you also still sit here and like, man, I really miss the good old days. You yearn for who you used to be. How amazing is that? How beautiful is your past that you're able to sit here in the present with the potential and who you've become and sit there and be like, man, I really miss who I used to be. I miss the memories that I had. How beautiful does your life have to be for you to sit here in this present moment and be like, man, yesterday was pretty beautiful, or a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago was beautiful. That is crazy to me and really changed my perspective. Because it's funny to me because I have these two quotes back to back here on my notes. And I'm looking at them and it's like duality of man right here. It's like, at first it makes you think like, oh, maybe, nostalgia isn't all that. But then you're reminded that you lived a life to be proud of. That's something that I kind of had a hard time like grasping with, or like, that I grappled with for a long time was like, I wasn't proud of who I was and who I am. But when you start reflecting on the happy moments in your life, you realize that there's a lot of things to be proud of, that there were a lot of good decisions that you made. Sometimes I think a lot of the time we're very harsh on ourselves, and it can stem from, comparison, to sit here and be like, oh my God, this other person went through so much more than I did. So why am I not significantly in a better position? And it's like, maybe you could be, but maybe you aren't meant to be. That's something that's really important that people need to internalize more, is like, sometimes you're where you're meant to be. And to believe that you're meant to be somewhere else is kind of fallible. There's that one quote from that one movie that's really, really vague, but like it's the one with like Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence, and they're on like the spaceship thing, and then he's talking to the bartender. And
Like,
you can't be so hung up on where you'd rather be that you don't make the most of where you are, right? At the end of the day, being proud of yourself is important. Being proud of your history is important. And the ability to sit here and smile about what you used to have is pretty, pretty beautiful. And like, if you really think about it, at the end of life, many people say like, oh yeah, when I die, the one thing I want to be able to is look back on my life and smile about what I did, like to be happy about what I accomplished. Think about the fact that you do that right now. Think about the fact that every time that you feel that nostalgia factor, that the good old times, that you're smiling on the history of your own life, right? It's the same thing, just at a different time. Be proud of the happy memories that you made. Be proud of who you are, who you've been, and who you've become. Because at the end of the day, That's what it's all about. It's about looking back and smiling on those happy memories. Be proud of who you are and remember that it is quite a privilege to feel nostalgia.
It really is. It really is. I think about that a lot, actually, because it's funny. On the Brighter Horizons account, I've curated the content to be similar to what we post about. A lot of positive content, right? That's just what I like to do with that account. And I remember scrolling and looking at all these different things about how we are so blessed to live the life that we do, and how, like you said, how much of a privilege it is to yearn for your own memories. That is such a good quote, because you often diminish those good moments in the present. But in the future, you will look back on that with such envy that you could not possibly comprehend how good right now is. Nostalgia is proof that the present is worth experiencing. No matter if it's good or bad, in the future, you will look back on it and think, man, what a time. What a time it was. You may look back on it and say, what a great time it was. You may look back on it and say, what a horrible time it was, but man, did I learn a lot.
There's two things I want to tie to that. One, the quote that life is a tragedy in close view, and it's a comedy in long shot. It's that, it even ties, this wasn't the second quote I was going to use, but it ties to the ironic tragedy of life is that it has to be lived in forward, but it only makes sense in reverse, right? Is that reflection is what gives you understanding. You always want to understand things before they happen, but if you think about it, that logic is completely flawed, right? You can't understand something before it passes. Once it passes, then you can reflect on it and understand it. So, to me, I think, if you zoomed out on your life, you would realize just how funny a lot of it is. And that's the one thing I found is even the stupid things in my life, the horrible moments, the moments where tears streaming down my face, I talk about with my friends nowadays and we're laughing about it, right? Because it's funny. So respectfully, that's the best way I could put it, is that it still puts a smile on my face. There's a lot of really beautiful things in our history that we try to not accept because we're like, in the moment I felt so horrible. But then you really look at it and you're like, damn, it really wasn't that deep. Or really it was something to smile about.
Yeah.
I like that idea that the present is so valuable. Yeah. Now I remember the second quote I was going to use is, I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old times before you actually leave them. Yeah. Right? And that's such a classic. Shout out Andy Bernard. Such a goated quote. But, you haven't watched The Office, so come on, man. Lock in. But
that's what, it is where it's from. Office. That's a good point.
It's the last episode.
Damn, really?
Yeah, when I tell you that, it's cinema. The Office is a cinematic
the entire show
masterpiece.
Or the last episode?
Most of the show.
Okay.
It's really fire. I think it took a bit of a downhill towards the end, as all shows do, Just a natural... I think it's just a natural law that all great shows have that one fall off, except for Avatar.
I was about to say.
Only show that never... But, that's also because it's only 3 seasons, so,
It's also a bit subjective, because it's funny because I literally saw a reel about these shows are the only 10 out of 10s, and the rating, I think it's IMDb ratings, have every single one of their episodes above a certain point. Avatar had a few episodes where they weren't perfect episodes, but every other episode was really, really good. But there were shows that were ranked higher than Avatar. Obviously, granted, most of those shows I haven't watched them, but I think looking back on it, Avatar is probably one of the most impactful shows I have ever watched.
Guys, this is no secret to me. It's my number one of all time for a reason. It's the only show I've rated perfect for a reason.
And it's the only show we've rewatched however many times we rewatched it.
I'm at 16 now.
16!
Yeah.
Oh, my days.
I actually haven't done a rerun in quite a while. But, there's only one episode that's not peak.
Which is?
The Cave of Two Lovers. The only reason I say that is because Avatar did a bad job with its romance, I think. Because that just wasn't its strong suit, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's also hard to incorporate that into a kid's show and make it.
So, that's why, that being its worst aspect is completely fine. And even it being its worst aspect, it's not even bad. I genuinely still think that episode is great, and I'll watch it 10 times over. The funniest thing is that one of the best episodes is the only filler episode. The only filler episode in the entire show.
Wait. Sorry, I'll let you finish first before I take my guess. I don't have to guess. I already know
Yeah,
what it is. My
everybody
bad,
knows what
chat.
it is. But like, there's only one filler episode in the entire show, and it is by far one of the best, most emotional, most soul crushing, most beautiful, most glorious episodes in like TV history.
Yeah.
And what is that episode?
The Tales of Ba Sing Se.
Exactly. Like, we're going on an Avatar tangent because I always love going on an Avatar tangent. It is absolutely perfect, and the fact that one of the best episodes is its only filler just showcases how beautiful the show is. Because other shows have filler and it's horrible. You ever watch an anime filler episode?
Think about the week that we spent on the boat in Naruto.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. The stupid
if you
fungus
know-
episode. God.
Horrible. Bount arc.
Bound
Don't
Talk is not even, I don't even think that's filler. I'm pretty sure that's
I think I
canon.
didn't watch it actually.
But you didn't miss anything. That was
Yeah, I
awful.
know.
But
I
I have a certain pride of watching every episode. So
I think
even
Bleach
though
was
it's
the
bad-
only show where I skipped filler because I genuinely just couldn't stand it.
It's bad. Some of the filler in Bleach is really bad.
It's really bad.
On a side note, actually, before we continue, I find it hilarious that you say we're going on an Avatar tangent. Dude, there's no such thing as a tangent on a podcast. This is our show. We can talk about whatever we want. I could talk about politics if I wanted to. We're
No,
not going there.
no.
We're not doing that.
We can't do that.
I mean, I don't know enough about politics. I don't care about
Honestly,
politics enough to talk
guys,
about it.
I actually saw this video that really, it was really, really beautiful. It was these two guys, and that sounds kind of like, okay. I wasn't gearing up for it in a really, okay. Anyway,
Pause.
it's these two gentlemen, right?
Yes, that's better.
And they're both wearing suits. One's got a red tie, one's got a blue tie.
Okay.
And then it literally starts, and it's like a black guy and a white guy. And then he like points at the, he's like, he's black. And then he's white. And then he's like, his name is this, his name is this. He's a Republican, he's a Democrat. And then they like go back and forth about like all the things that they like disagree on. And then it's like, but we're both fathers and we're both friends. And they're like, at the end of the day, politics are important, but we should put them aside when it comes to the people around us. And I was like, damn, this is quite beautiful. And it was like, and it's like, his name is, and then they said his name, and then his name is, and it's like, and then we approved this message. And I was like, that's what's up.
That is what's up.
That is what's up. Like that, the beauty of seeing people finally separate, or at least online seeing people separate politics from people is kind of beautiful to me. We've always talked about how like people like to assume that they know everything about somebody based off of one thing about them, and that video to me like abolished all of that. It destroyed the fact that two people that couldn't be more different sat there and said, we're still friends despite everything. And if they can do it, why can't you? That's what my key is. Like, there is no reason for us to sit here and, breed hate against each other for such menial things. Like, at the end of the day, even if you believe something, like maybe you don't agree with another person's way of thinking, it's not like you disagreeing with them means that you should hate them.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, you should be able to separate humans from just a person's point of view and their perspective. Like maybe you don't want to associate with somebody who has like an extremely bad connotation of you and is constantly like negative around you or, harmful to you, but like just somebody that might disagree with your opinion. That doesn't make you the worst human being ever, right? Like we disagree about stuff all the time. That doesn't mean that I hate this guy. Like that's just a part of life. Like people, like you guys might be like, Avatar's buns, you're wrong, but like you could say that. You could say that maybe it's not the best show of all time. We could disagree. We could engage in healthy discourse. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, you dare say that Avatar's not the best show. You're done.
How dare you, you filthy peasant.
Wow. That took a turn. Wow.
Did it?
I wasn't going to attack anybody, but.
Well, I was that was ironic.
Yeah, sure.
It's ironic.
Sure, but that came from the depths of a soul. He was feeling that. He had to say that to somebody. But truth to be told, people can have opinions. People can have perspectives. That doesn't mean that you know the person. A person is not their perspective. A person is not their perception. A person is not their opinion. They're so much more than that. Again, we always say, 2 decades of time distilled down to one sentence. How arrogant do you have to be to believe that you have the ability to do that?
Yeah, and you never know the whole story about a person. And like I said earlier, the most important thing in life is not the achievements, it's not the money, it's the people. People will always be the most important thing. If you can show people how much they mean to you, how much even a stranger means to you, just a simple act of kindness to those people, you don't understand how far it could go. And I have the perfect story actually to illustrate this that happened this week. It was on Tuesday, or I guess technically last week, but Tuesday last week, I'm at work. And to those of you that haven't been around on the show, I work in high-end sales. So I sell expensive watches. I was working and this guy came in dressed in very casual clothes, kind of the story that always happens in this field. And he was wearing jeans and a big oversized black hoodie. And he almost looks like a bit shy. Like he's kind of like pacing around the store, like waiting for somebody to help him. So I walk over to him and I say, "Hi, how are you doing, my friend?" How I greet everybody, no matter if you walk in with a suit, no matter if you walk in with tattered clothes that looks like you've been homeless for 6 years. Doesn't matter what you look like. I'm going to walk up to you and say, "Hi, how are you doing, my friend?" And they will respond. So I go up to him and I talk to him, and he just seems like a very, very chill guy, super nice guy. And he's like, "I was just wondering if you had this model of watch." And I'm like, "Yes, we do. It's right here." So he's like, "Can I take a look at it?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So I take it out of the showcase and I put it on the tray and I hand it to him. And he starts looking at it, inspecting it. And I ask him, "What's the occasion?" Because rule number one is, if somebody is here, they're here for a reason. Finding out what that reason is significantly more important than trying to sell them something. Because how do you make somebody's experience in life good? It's by understanding them, wanting to know more about them as a person. To me, that's my goal with every single person I meet. I want to learn as much about you as possible. Not to sell you something, but because your story is interesting to me. It's not my life. When I go to work, I can put myself in the back seat. I can put all my problems away and just focus on you, your life. And that's what makes it fun for me. Because like we said earlier in the episode, being able to sit there and listen to somebody else's problems is a joy, right? Hearing somebody else's story is a joy. So I asked him, "What's your reasoning for going after this watch?" And he said, "Well, I'm putting my watch in for service, so I need a new watch for the 6 months that it's going to be gone." I'm sitting there like, damn, this guy's got money to be able to buy a $3,000 watch just for a 6-month trial purpose. And I'm like, "Oh, what watch are you sending in for service?" And he rolls up his sleeve. So the oversized hoodie was intentionally worn to cover his wrists, so nobody could make any preconceived notions about him. Pulls up his sleeve, unclips the watch, and hands it to me. And I'm sitting there. You can hear my jaw hit the floor as I see the watch he hands to me. It was a Patek Philippe Aquanaut. Steel, black dial, black rubber. Stunning, stunning watch. You can buy these on the secondary market for 5 figures, sometimes 6 figures, depending on the time of year and also the model. These watches are absurdly expensive. You're talking about a $100,000 watch. And he just hands it to me casually. And just by looking at my reaction, he smiled. He smiled immediately. And he said, "Yeah, that's the reaction watch enthusiasts give me when I hand them that watch." And he was like, "It's nice to see somebody else who feels the same way that I do about them." And we stood there and talked about watches for an hour. An hour. We just stood there talking. At the end of it, he was like, "Okay, I'll take this one." And he did end up purchasing that watch. But to me, the most important thing in that interaction wasn't even the sale, which is what most salespeople care about. They care about closing a sale, getting the money, leaving. For me, every interaction I have is so cool because you don't know who this person is. How you treat them is going to be the most important thing at the end of the day. And he drove all the way, like he drove an hour and a half to come see our store. Even though there were stores closer to him, he wanted to see the experience he would get here. So I certainly gave him the best experience I possibly could, treated him with utmost kindness, professional courtesy, and everything like that. Did not make any judgments about him. And what happened? Not only did he buy the watch, the more important thing for me was he said to my face, "You are fantastic at what you do. And I think that the drive to come here, the hour and a half I spent driving here was worth it to experience this." Not only did he say it to me, he said it to the owner of the store and was like, "He's a good salesperson. Don't let him go." And that was his closing remarks before leaving the store. Regardless of if he bought that watch or not, I would have been happy knowing I treated another human being with the utmost kindness and respect. And it's not just about people at work. It's about people I run into at school. It's about anybody I see. You treat them with respect, and it will come back to you in some way. Being a nice person is not just about yourself. It's about how you treat everybody around you. And the more you can treat people with respect and kindness, the more that respect and kindness will somehow, thanks to the universe, find its way back to you.
I mean, you leave an imprint on everybody that you come across. Like,
Yeah.
that's the number one takeaway is don't diminish your impact. Like, me and Ali talked about it on the last episode, so if you guys haven't, go check it out.
Go check it out.
You have such a powerful, like, ability within your hands, the ability to impact the lives of the people around you. Do not underestimate that power, because that interaction right there could have been the saving grace of, one, him spending $3,000, but then also him having wasted, an hour and a half driving here, an hour and a half driving back, 3 hours of his life, or, smiling about the fact that he had made this 3 hours worth of driving. So don't underestimate your impact. You don't know what people have gone through to be here, and they are going to appreciate it more than you could ever imagine.
That is, honestly, could not say it any better than that. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you know what time it is. It is time for our weekly woohoos. Woohoo! Let's go! We got it right.
Yeah, I was about to say, you had to take a second there to make sure you weren't clicking the wrong one.
Yep. In case you don't remember, 74, we did a bit of an oopsie with that one. But We're back, chat. We are back. So let's get into some good news stories that you may not have heard throughout the week. First and foremost, I'm going to start with a simple one and then a cooler one, okay? Simple one, let's talk about some marine biology. Green sea turtles. They were on the brink of extinction, but recently, after a decades-long mission to save them, a major milestone was hit just this week where the green sea turtle was removed from the Union for Conservation of Nature. They have a little itinerary of species that are endangered. The green sea turtle was removed from that. Yippee-ki-yay, we saved them. So all this effort that we are slowly putting in, and all the people who are, to some of you, might be just yapping about conservation for no reason. You might even think that about me. But those efforts, those conversations that happen, and all the protests that happen in the media to save animals, it works because people make changes based on what the rest of the world is saying. Now, granted, I still don't support people who, say stop oil and then glue themselves to racetracks or damage famous art pieces. That's not what I'm saying. But through diplomatic conversation, peaceful protest, we can truly improve the world. Now, the second story, if you like all black outfits, you're destroying the planet. Maybe. Did you know that most black fabrics use a component to dye it called carbon black? Carbon black is a dye that is a byproduct from burning fossil fuels. So they take this and condense it and then turn your Lululemon hoodie black.
Is this why you're wearing white today?
No, actually, that's just a complete
sure,
coincidence.
Sure, buddy.
It's a complete coincidence. I swear.
Okay. Yes.
Anyways, so this not only is it bad for the environment because you're burning fossil fuels, releasing carbon dioxide into the air and damaging the environment, it's also a possible carcinogen. Congratulations, pal. You're cooked.
You couldn't have told me this before I woke up, or like before I stepped in here.
But there's a silver lining. There is a silver lining. Thanks to the US-based company Living Inc. Living Inc. is a bioscience research company that is the first to develop environmentally safe pigments. How do they do it? They grow cultures of algae in these massive pools of water, harvest the algae, and then heat treat them to turn them into a black pigment. And it works just as good as carbon black, and it is not carcinogenic, and it is healthy for the environment. You would also be happy to know that it's not just some under-the-radar thing. Big companies like Nike, New Balance, and Crocs have already started using Living Ink as part of their dye process. I don't know about Lululemon, but I will say there's a chance, because if all these big companies are already using it, there's a good chance that Lululemon is in the same boat. So, fantastic news that if you like your all-black outfits, especially in, winter, fall, you're not destroying the planet anymore. Thanks to Living Ink.
Hopefully. Shout out Living Ink.
Shout out Living Ink, man. I feel like finding all these cool little technology things that revolutionize how we do things and help preserve the planet, It's always really cool, you know?
It is. I genuinely think like I'm kind of like worried now. Or, like I'm kind of stressing right now.
Nah, it'll
guys.
be fine. It'll
But
be fine.
also, like, do you know when they're like saying burning fossil fuels? Is that for like the express purpose of it, or like is it we're burning fossil fuels for something else? Can we like simultaneously do it? You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
actually a good question.
right. Obviously, it being carcinogenic and everything is not the best. That's definitely suboptimal.
But it is
like,
definitely important
you
to
know
know that.
if like no, I'm saying like hypothetically, if you know you're burning fossil fuels anyway, and then you
Yeah.
use this material, then it's like is it the worst? Because that's just effectively using all the resources. That way you're not wasting.
True.
But
True.
at the end of the day, it would be better if we didn't have to do it at all. So shout out Living Ink. That's
That is
amazing.
definitely an interesting
I'm
question.
not
to
gonna
follow
lie.
up on.
I thought you were gonna go down. I thought they were gonna like harvest squid ink or something, because like squid ink is is so incredibly like potent in like its dyeing capabilities.
Yeah.
Like I saw a dude like he took squid ink and he like rubbed it on his arms and he just like and then he went a week and his
Huh?
entire arm stayed black for over
A
a week.
week?
Yeah,
Oh my days.
like it was crazy. I was like, damn, I didn't know that the squids had potential like that.
Yeah, I'm sure that they used to do that in like ancient times, but I wonder if you took that squid ink just because of how potent it is, what if you just diluted it 1,000 times with water and you have this still super powerful ink?
I don't think that's how it works, dude. Like if you dilute it, it's gonna be weaker. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I get that, but what I'm saying is based on how potent it is right now, if you don't need it to be that potent to still achieve the same results, how much can you dilute it to achieve good results?
Probably not that much. Like I don't think it's that crazy. Like think about how strong our dyes are. I feel like we were putting a lot of like this concentrated solutions, right? Like
That's actually a good point.
I you know, it's really crazy to see how far we've come as humans.
That is a
Like
very
you
good
know,
point.
back in the day, they used to be just crushing blueberries and stuff to make dye.
Crushing blueberries.
That's what they did. No, like I'm pretty sure. Or like that's how they made wine and stuff. Is people just stepped on grapes. I'm like 95%
No, yeah,
sure
yeah, that's true.
That's how it works. So
That is
like,
true.
You know, I mean, maybe like the books and stuff that or like old TV shows that I saw might have just been lying. But
Nah, I think
Yeah.
that's true. I think there's some accuracy to that.
and with that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of episode 76 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. But before you guys go, you already know what time it is. It's time for quote
Of
the
week.
Herm.
Quote of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Say that one more time for the
No-
viewers.
Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Do you need me to say this a
I'm
third time?
so lost.
Okay.
Break it down for me.
People don't care about how knowledgeable you are about anything in life. They don't want to hear what you have to say until they know that you care about them,
About them or about the topic?
about them. More so about personal relationships, like advice, things like that. Like, for example, I'm not going to sit here and listen to you say, this is what you need to do to fix your life, knowing that you don't give a damn about me. I don't want to listen to a creator online who says,
There we go.
I don't care about you, but here's what I would do if I was in your shoes. Any content creator that says this is what you should do to achieve X is because they clearly care about their audience. People follow people who care.
Well, some people just be doing it to sell a course nowadays, but
That's true, but that's why we hate on those people.
we don't hate. On
We don't
anybody.
hate them, but the general population hates on them because
The general population buys their course.
general population does not like course sellers. That's like the biggest thing on TikTok where they're like, all this to sell a course, bro? Are we serious?
Yeah, and guess what? Those people are still making money somehow.
Whatever.
Explain that, Einstein.
Name your favorite creator. One of your favorite creators, because I'll tell you one. What?
Matt Pat, game theorist.
He was easily one of the most sincere YouTubers I've
agree.
ever seen.
Dan TDM.
Also super sincere guy. Nothing but grateful for everything. And you know who I think about a lot?
Ryan Higa. Oh,
Also a very good one, but I was thinking more of a modern example. Not a YouTuber.
not a YouTuber.
Influencer.
Chris Williamson.
No. Gym guy.
Who?
Jim.
Oh, I don't know. Alex Ramosi.
Noel.
Oh,
My
yeah.
goat.
What a man. What
My
a
God.
man.
That's what, literally, like, I could put him in top 5.
He might be top 5 human beings of all time.
Human beings, for sure.
Yeah.
Men, top 5. Easily.
Dude. Hey, I'm putting him. Actually, I don't know if I can put him top 5 human beings.
Yeah, that's kind of tough.
Because
But I'll say
obviously,
top 5
you know,
men.
dad's number 1.
That's true.
You're somewhere in the top 50, right? And then well, they're definitely above you.
This
Probably.
guy said top 50.
I mean, I'm number 2, obviously. So
Are we serious?
yeah,
bro?
no.
Are we
Yeah,
serious?
no, it'll work out.
Whatever.
He
I'm
might
just
be
saying
top
that
5.
he's such a inspiration to us because he really cares about every single one of us. Right? He shows that he
Are
cares.
you in his broadcasting channel?
I don't think so, actually.
No. Like I'm in it, and like every like once in a while, like every couple of days, he drops like a "Hey guys, hope you all know that you're like amazing people, and you know if you keep going for your goals, you're gonna achieve that." It's like these little nuggets of positivity, and it's really beautiful.
Dude, that's sick.
Like,
We need
it's
to
so
like.
awesome.
I would do that when we blow up the channel. We definitely gotta start that too. That would be
sure,
sick.
man.
That'd be
But
sick.
with that, ladies and gentlemen, we officially come to the very end of episode 76 of the Bright Horizons podcast. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the very end. Your support is truly valued, and it means more than you guys could ever imagine. Now, with all that said, remember that life is quite beautiful. There's a beauty in being vulnerable, in being honest and authentic. Build those real relationships by being real with the people around you. Sometimes it's okay to lower your shield, to shake the hand of an ally. There's a lot of beauty in being open and honest with the people that you love and the people that care about you. Whether you believe it or not, people want to be there for you. They want to believe in your better self and see you grow. Look back on your past, be proud of who you are, be proud of who you're going to become. And with that, make sure you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.